Hello everyone, I welcome you to another episode of your wonderful program, The Platform. My name is Bumi Odunton. Race is a powerful idea and an enduring concept invented by society. It has fostered inequality and discrimination for centuries, as well as influencing how we relate to other human beings. The world has become a global village, thereby enabling individuals to seek social, economic, and even political opportunities globally. Integrating into a new society is certainly the hope of most newcomers. This may be in the public and private realms, across generations, and at the individual, family, community, and national level. Sadly, racism as a belief with characteristics and abilities that can be attributed to people simply based on their race, that some racial groups are superior to others, has been used as a powerful weapon, encouraging fear or hatred of others in times of conflict and war, and even during economic downturns. The murder of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis has brought the issue of systemic racism to the center of the national conversation across North America and the world. It has served as a reminder to us of the urgent need for action around system of policing, administration of justice, and the underlying economic and social inequalities that undermine quality of life, particularly for racialized communities and indigenous people. Racism and integration have become one of life's challenges for newcomers and even the host communities. Our goal at STO Global Concept is, however, to provide alternative solutions to these challenges. In the light of this, on your program today, we shall be discussing overcoming the fears of racism and integration. During the week, I had the opportunity to meet and discuss this topic with a very outstanding couple who themselves migrated to Canada and have since lived in Canada for over 3 decades. They shared their experiences and opinions on racism and integration. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome back, and don't forget that this is still your program, The Platform, and the topic of discussion today is overcoming the fears of integration and racism. I've got a wonderful couple in-house, and I want to leave them to introduce themselves. You're welcome on set, sir and ma. So can we start from you, Daddy?
My name is Damisi Daodu. I'm the husband of Kenny Daodu.
Okay. You're welcome, sir.
And my name is Kenny Daodu, married to Mr. D. For over 40 years, we have 2 beautiful daughters, and we've been living in Canada now for 30 years.
And what has been the experience so far in Canada?
It's been wonderful. We've had a lot of different challenges, but we have overcome a lot.
The same thing, I would say that we migrated to Canada for the purpose of, more importantly, for the purpose of raising our children, and God has been so wonderful to us in this land.
And we have stories to tell about that.
Well, I'm sure we're going to listen to that.
Oh, okay.
So, going by the topic of today, which is overcoming the fears of integration and racism, here, anywhere around the world. When we talk of racism, we often consider it with respect to skin color. However, before migrating to Canada, what were your thoughts about racism? Let's start from you, Daddy.
My thoughts about racism is as follows. Racism to me is not what it was for others. Now, racism is something that we often just label. Not all the time that you can say that, oh, because you disagree with someone or somebody did something, you turn it to racism. But in reality, even where we came from, we understand that there are different tribes, and you can call that racism. But at the same time, we don't want to label it as racism over there, but here, the slightest one, we want to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, I would say that throughout our stay here, we've never really experienced anything serious about racism. It is actually, people just kind of label it when it's not necessary to do that.
Auntie Kenny, has that been your experience? Oh?
Right. To me, about the word racism, being here in Canada for over 30 years, I will actually say I experienced more tribalism back home than the word we're using as racism. Over here, even though I am this color, the way I am with my accent and everything, I still cannot compare to what we have back in Nigeria, because in Nigeria, right beside you, we are very tribalistic. From one door to another, you are not allowed to marry somebody because of somebody's coming from another ethnic group. I think it's a huge thing. Coming from Africa and we're coming here, we don't see that much. Of course, I'm not disputing the fact that they might not use that against you, but coming from Nigeria, you still don't have that opportunities that I think you have here to become who you want to become, because it's more pronounced as in our tribals back home than the word racism we're using here.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So, Daddy, I'm going to throw this question to you. Before migrating to Canada, what were your fears or concerns?
I would say that I was so privileged to have studied in England before we relocated to Canada. Having said that, the experience of what to expect, I really had it already. So now migrating to Canada, it happens that when you have to be focused on what do you really want, why do you want to migrate? Is it because of the suffering in Nigeria? Is it because of the lack of job? But for me, it was like the future of my children. Personally, I can cope with situation in Nigeria on my own. But my fear was that, can my children cope? Can my children have the same opportunity that I even had? So hence, question of raising my children in Nigeria was out of it based on that
and that is actually very, very important.
Yeah.
And Kenny, was that the same thing for you?
I think it's the same thing. We wanted to raise our kids in more peaceful, better atmosphere, because for us, we need to have to say we have a generation that is better than the way we had it. How do we have that? The focus actually for leaving Nigeria was to be able to raise our children in a better culture, where they can have all the opportunities they could get, where they can become what God has made them to be. Because we find out back in Nigeria, we don't have that opportunities. We don't have the right structure to say, this is a child, this child can achieve this child can become this. But we are one of those stories that we put definitely to want to raise our children. That's the main focus anyway, to leave Nigeria. So there was no fear. Because by the time we were now talking that I left 30 years ago, Nigeria was not settled. We had corruption, we had schools were closing, universities were going off school for 6 months. And there was no way we can see the end to our challenges. There was no way we can see the end to our problems. There was no hope. We had no aspiration. We just lived each and every day and just say, okay, this is what it is. But with the way, when we have that and you think, okay, I was born those days in the 60s where I had good benefits of enjoying the British education, but we couldn't even promise that for our children. So the hope of getting out or migrating, in my own case, it was just like a godsend that let us take this leap of faith. Let us look for a better place to raise our children. And that's the whole problem. No fears at all to live.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So I'm coming back to you, Auntie Kenny. So after taking the decision, was there any way that you had fear bothering around your color or accent? Things around that.
Right. I've been very blessed to be raised amongst different diverse groups. In Nigeria, I lived in Ibadan. And where I lived, we were living with the Igbos, the Hausas, and we were kind of exposed. So we never had any way to think somebody was better than anybody. We were all like people. Because when you live in a diverse place, you already have it. So the fear of the way I speak it, I didn't have any problem about that. That was already developed personally.
Because you saw yourself as
one. As one. So going and taking the risk of stepping out of what we were was not a big problem. Like to come and say, okay, this is the way I speak. We have more of different accents and dialects in Nigeria that people will make fun of that anyway. As far as I'm concerned, I'm even still here. A Canadian, I can still not say that I have the Canadian.
Definitely.
I still have my accent. Nobody can take that one away from me.
Sure.
And which means I have to be comfortable within myself, to be myself. Like I'm going to go for any interview, I'm already presenting myself as who I am, not the way I want to say it. And that gives me my confidence that I have to present myself to be able to meet the world.
Thank you,
That's the way I say it.
Uncle D, was that the same for you?
It's a similar experience that I had, as in nothing to fear about migrating from Nigeria, because we, like I said, that it's a real privilege for me to have studied in England, and possibly I would have loved to remain in Nigeria, contribute towards the development of Nigeria, but unfortunately, the way the situations are there, situation where if you don't know people, you possibly will not get ahead, and those are really the motivation for us to come here. And being here, we know we don't expect things that will be, everything will just be on a platter of gold. You have to contribute. You have to know what you want to focus on. You don't migrate because you want more money or anything like that. You have to have a focus and this and a purpose that really drives your coming.
The vision, yeah.
Yeah, and we thank God that God has been so good to us. I can say without any doubt that God has been so good to the extent that our purpose has been achieved in that area.
All right. So I'm going to put both of you on the hot spot now. Now, okay, you had the good experiences, right? Because you've had some kind of levelings here and there. Had it been you've had that experience negatively, how would you have been able to, manage it and overcome such fears? Let's start from you, Uncle D.
My experience from my young age has really prepared me for what I will call both failures as well as success. And it really grounded me. As a student in England, I was a self-sponsored student, so which means nobody paid for the fees. My parents were not privileged enough to be able to pay for my fees, but through the grace of God, I scaled through. And coming to Canada, I wasn't expecting that, oh, everything would be so rosy and so on. I was fully prepared for the challenges.
Okay. So for people that don't have such experiences, what will you tell them to overcome the fears of, I'm migrating, but I'm scared. I'm not white. I can't even speak like them. So what are you going to tell them?
What I would just say is this, that, well, I mean, most of us are privileged enough to have gone to school. Nigeria is an English-speaking country.
Yes.
We can actually fit into any society, of course, of English-speaking countries.
Yes.
I
Auntie
would
Kenny.
just encourage them on that basis.
Okay, thank you very much. Auntie Kenny, and what are you going to do? Hadimi, you didn't have those experiences. If you have had them negatively, how would you have overcome the fear of your accent and the color, everything bothering around that?
I will have said to myself, if you are moving into another environment completely, that's your choice. Mm-hmm. When you have a choice to make to say you are leaving to go to somewhere, you have to prepare yourself what comes in the future for that journey that you're going to. So preparing yourself to know that you will be able to have different things that will come to you, different from where you're coming from.
Different challenges.
Different challenges. We all have fears about what tomorrow will look like. We all have fears about, oh, is that my accent that might not be able to call it? They might not give me work because of some situations. But I tell you, the only way we as individuals have to deal with that is to have more confidence in ourselves.
In oneself.
When you have the confidence, you can overcome anything. You don't have to be rich before you can become like a rich man within yourself. It all comes from inside.
And the mindset.
And the mindset. Because if you are coming all the way from Nigeria or Africa, you're already having that in your mind. Oh, would they accept my accent? You're already a failure. Mm-hmm. You have failed. But if you are now telling yourself, I am going to step outside my boundary, which means you're taking that leap of faith, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to build your confidence and say, God, I am going somewhere. Wherever I'm going, let me be able to handle this. We have to be more positive in our attitude, in our mindset. There's nothing to tell us fear, like I think the word fear. You are in bondage because it's even better than you to put yourself under the fear of what you haven't even seen. Yes. But you are going to, I will give myself as an example. I didn't come to Canada with my documents or my papers. And I had two beautiful children. And I had to struggle to make them to stay in Canada. I came as a visitor. That one is a long story. And I wanted to stay purposely because of these two children. What do? I know I'll be facing a lot of challenges in my life. I didn't have my PR just like anybody else. I went to jail. I got deported. And I still did not give up.
Now we are gradually getting to where we are going to.
Thank you. So anyway, for me, I would say, you have to be confident.
And people have to understand their unique personality. They need to understand and accept who they are.
You have to accept who you are.
Yes.
You have to have confidence in yourself. You have to know the future might not be that bright. You have to encourage yourself from inside.
Yes. And understand that.
And understand that no matter how it's coming, you're going to be facing it. And you're going to be
challenge and ready to just surmount it.
Just surmount it. No matter, it doesn't have to be the background you came from. It doesn't have to be how rich you are. You can be rich and you still don't have the confidence. But you can be confident and you face the challenges that is ahead of you.
I think this is getting so much interesting. And before we go on to the next question, we need to go on a short break. We'll be right back. you're welcome back, and we're still on your program, The Platform. Ma, before we went on that very short break, you were about telling us some of your experiences on your arrival in Canada, particularly your integration process. So we're ready to listen from you.
Right. It's been a long story, but I tell you, it was a good way to go. We're actually blessed. Coming to Canada, I had come to Canada to have my second daughter. I was pregnant with my second daughter, and I came with my first one. She was 3 years old that time, and I happened to have my second one through invitation to have my baby in Canada. It was a good opportunity. So my second daughter was born in Canada on Canada Day, and I was assuming having a Canadian baby will give me my papers.
Like automatic.
Automatic, which was not. I overstayed. By the time I realized it, my 6 months was expired. And of course, I loved Canada. I just loved Winnipeg. I wanted to stay. So that was where the struggle came. I couldn't work with my visiting visa. I had to process for my permanent residency. But of course, immigration already set in for me to leave because I overstayed my time. And that was the whole story for another 5 years. In between the time to get my permanent residency, I got into trouble with immigration. As you can see, it was a strong challenge for me to maintain, to stay and raise my children in a better country. Because by that time, my second daughter, my first daughter, who was 3, was already going to school, and she was enjoying school. I can see the future. Then I know there's something to fight for. So for 5 straight years after that, I went through immigration process, immigration hearing. I went to jail. I got deportation, and I still came back for the purpose of having to raise those children in a better country, to give them something. It's a legacy I have to give them.
You're a very strong woman.
They can achieve what they can achieve. They can grow. So the challenge that I have to face, for 3.5 years, I got deported and I was in Jamaica for 3.5 years with 2 children. Finally, with all the process back and forth, I came back to Canada with the proper documentation to work. And you will have thought it was easy. So if you think it was easy to start all over, I will tell you, I was very comfortable with this, my husband living home, with my nice car, good fancy life.
Because I was about actually asking, where was Uncle D? And
the time I left, I'll let you know, that was the determination to go and have the child in Canada. But we both agreed we wanted a good education, a good place to raise these kids. It was an opportunity for us. I left Mr. D back home. So I had to deal with those 2 children, to go through all the processing, to become a permanent resident in Canada. But so it was a war. It was challenging. It was difficult. But I overcame that with the strong belief that these children have to do well. Like this, when you have to have a goal, you have to set a goal. You have to be strong to achieve the goal. My goal was not coming to Canada to make money. My goal to come to Canada was not to just be anything. My goal to come to Canada is to tell my children you're going to make it. My goal to come into Canada is to tell them you can be who you want to be. I want my children to be better than myself. I should be better than my parents. So the children that I will be leaving behind or even ahead of me should be better to raise. They better start raising good children. And that is what we call our legacy. So there will be challenges that will be coming along our way. Like I said, it was not the most pleasant thing, but with positive attitude.
Thank you very much, Ma. I'll quickly pause you a little bit. Uncle D, what were you know, all through the time she was going through this, did you have access to her via communication, and what were your feelings? How were you feeling then?
As a married person,
Very young.
having really young marriage, having to live alone in Nigeria came with a lot of challenges. But one thing that God has done so well for us, we were both focused on one thing, and that thing is the raising of the children in a better environment. And why she came to Canada, I continued with my job, I continued with my business, and through the grace of God, I became born again. A born again Christian. My experience as a born again Christian was completely different from most people. I actually had to challenge God and say, God, the church, I don't like to attend just any churches that I'll call it man-made churches. And my church is that I told God, if you want me to be born again, bring this born again spirit to the church which I attend. And I attended, and our church is called African Church, which was originally part of CMS and Anglican churches. And God did that. It now becomes, okay, what else? I gave my life to Christ in a very practical way. And God saw me throughout the period that they were away, we were away from each other. God really upheld us.
Were you able to communicate with her then?
Yes, communication in terms of not something you can call regular thing.
Like, you know, we have phone
yes.
now. Everybody
Fortunately,
carries a mobile.
even before she left Nigeria, we have a landline phone in our house. So it's not that we are that poor per se, but because of the goal that we have for our children. So she was able to communicate, and in those days, you have very expensive to phone from Nigeria.
Yeah.
So, but then, even by the time they went to Jamaica, it was a lot more difficult to communicate. It was such a struggle. Every time I kind of ask myself that, wow, why you know, it's not, no, I never regretted that. Taking that decision. But it's always that, when is God going to do it for us to be together?
And can I finish with that one?
Yes, I'm actually coming back to you because I'm about asking you, you know, in all the experiences you had, which one really impacted on you? You know, there's going to be one that is always like hitting it all the time if you're thinking about everything when you're, you know, flashing back. Which one really impacted on you?
The one that actually want to say for 8 straight years, my children cannot even see their husband.
Oh my God.
We were their dad. We were separated for almost 8.5 years. I, as a single mother of 2, will have to be challenged to take that banner to make sure these kids, for the purpose of the children, made me a stronger woman, gave me the resilience to fight, the courage to say, I am looking at something. I'm looking at some stars. Those are the things that will make you to wake up and say you have a purpose. That built me, myself. That can build anybody to face challenges, no matter what. Once you have a focus, you have your God. To say, God, I'm going to be dealing with this, and no matter, it doesn't matter the kind of challenge or challenges anybody's having. It might be different from each other. It was a challenge that I was nicely married, young marriage, nice life, profession back home. I had it. And I had to come all over. Leaving everything behind. I started doing newspapers in -45. I could not work the regular job everybody was working. I was working underneath the table. I was going to different houses to clean. I was doing everything I could. For 8 years, I was making a minimum wage. And I still had to be strong. I said, okay, there's a private school. I can send my child, my daughter, to a private school with $5 an hour. If anybody wants to be strong enough, being a single mother was powerful. For me to be able to stand and face life's challenges. That is to say, we can all be bounded with any kind of struggle. If you have a focus and you have God, and thank God I have the support of my husband himself to keep the prayers up, to keep the support up, and for the families that I do have. So it doesn't go like it's easy on anybody, but like I said,
Well, it's worth it.
it's worth it. It's really worth it.
Thank you very much, Ma, for sharing those experiences with us. Now, after you got your papers and you all settled in Canada, did you at any point ever wanted to go back to Nigeria to settle down?
No.
Whoa.
I will give you the reason for saying no, and I say it without any apology. When you go through certain things in your life, you want to see the good product of what you have actually struggled to do. Am I ready to struggle to achieve something and then go and step it back? Then I say, okay, let me now go to Nigeria. Now that I have my PR, Nigeria is the next place. All the struggle that I struggled with, all my deportation, with all my separation, with all the challenges, then I say, okay, now I have my PR. Let me take these same children to Nigeria. I said no. The purpose in its first instance is to have to raise them here. And from the news we do hear from Nigeria was even getting worse than before I left it. Do I want to say now they said Nigerian schools are in good condition? No. Do I want to say they have regular NEPA? No. My children have already been used to having regular light and basic necessities of life. And then I now want to say, okay, guys, we're now going to Nigeria where I have to subject them to that. That is not fair. And again, I believe in my own way, being born in Nigeria is just okay. Everybody has a journey in life. When I was leaving my parents, and they prayed for the blessing of Jacob and Joseph, like you're going into the world, we all have to live. And then you can become your own Israel wherever you are. When you step out from where, even a common way, like you're getting married to your husband, means you're leaving your parents' house. Yeah. Do you want to say, okay, something is not right now, you're going back to your parents' house? I want to see the logic in that. No. So in my own way, it's not for me to go back there. I have built, God has given me a place, a peaceful place, like my own Israel, to be prosperous, to be happy, to have my peace. Not only that, to be able to raise my 2 children, which these 2 children, I tell you, I am thankful for the trouble.
Uncle D, was it the same thing for you? Or did you have any, contrary opinion to what she said?
No, I did not have a contrary opinion, but I have a different experience.
Okay.
By the time they left Nigeria, the thinking was that within a couple of years, we'll be able to be together. But it didn't work out that way. It was a serious challenge. It was about 3 weeks after she arrived in Canada that my second daughter was born. You can imagine as a father,
not even knowing her.
Not,
oh my God.
The only thing I saw is pictures.
The pictures.
And as the struggle went on, especially when my second daughter was able to speak and talk and say, Dad, when are you coming? Because I didn't have an answer for her other than to say, soon. And the word soon became, next time around she would ask, when are you coming? I told you I will come soon. And then the next thing that my daughter will be saying is that I've heard that a million times. And every time she asked that question, sent me into crying, into depression, into a situation where, oh God, I have a daughter, I could not even be there to raise her. But to the glory of God, when, God is an amazing God. Whenever you are going through challenges or temptations, He enables you to cope with it. He prepares you for it. And I never really look back in terms of, is it a regret for them to have left? No, because the children are just too important for me to play with. Since we had our children, my life changed. I was prepared to give my life up for them. Whatever it will take, my ambition becomes just raising them in the right environment, in the right place. I can say that it was quite an experience for me at that time.
What an experience. I just don't want to wrap my head around it at all, because I can imagine what you both went through. But today we give God all the glory that, can you just tell us a little bit about those beautiful girls?
Okay, let me just start with our firstborn. It took a while after I married, it took a while before we were blessed with our first daughter, Daodu. From the time she was born, actually the experience was quite amazing. Kenny was in hospital bed, UCH, University Teaching Hospital Ibadan, for 7 months before our first daughter was born.
Wow.
And the day she was born, it was such an amazing day. A Saturday that I happens to be in Ibadan, because I work in Lagos Monday to Friday, come back to Ibadan every weekend. And she was born, and my life changed completely. Wow. My life completely changed. And in raising her for the 3 years she was in Nigeria before relocating to Canada, from age 2, she started school.
Wow.
So amazing. Not because she was due to go to school by then, but because
She's a brilliant kid.
We have Kenny's twin sister's daughter living with us.
Okay.
And whenever that one 2 years older than her, and whenever she's going to kindergarten or nursing school, my daughter would just pack herself and then she want to go to school. There was no room for her in school. Fortunately, Kenny had the principal of the school, happens to be, I think, a vice principal of the former school that where Kenny works. So he went to her and said that, well, we have 2 children, so they both have to be coming to school. And so she started school at age 2. And she proved, even within the time she was in Nigeria, she proved herself to be someone that's so special. And another thing about her was this, that anytime I come from Lagos, on Saturday we both go out to shopping, and unless at the time we were going to UTC, and you have a lot of white people coming to UTC to do their shopping, and my daughter would go and hold a child, a white child.
Wow.
And it now became a habit every Saturday, so we had to make a friend with a white family that has...
in Nigeria.
Why we are in Nigeria? A white family that has a child that's about the same age with her.
Wow.
So then I knew that her destiny is different. And to the glory of God. Even 6 months before they went to Canada, anytime she didn't behave well enough and say, you will not go to Canada, she would be crying. And she would, sit up. And Canada was like, at age 3, Canada was like a place that was meant for her. And we believe that, at least today I can see that this is the work of God. And these children are just the most amazing children you can ever ask or pray for.
Okay, Daddy, so what about the second daughter?
I will allow my wife to talk about her second
Okay,
daughter.
all right. So, Mommy, we leave that to you to deal with.
Right. Thank you. I want to say during the journey of our lives, we have been very blessed to have our first daughter. She's a medical doctor. She's a pediatric surgeon.
Oh, wow.
By standard right now, she's in one of her best life to be age 33 to have achieved to become a surgeon. Being a surgeon back in Nigeria, for everybody to understand that, it takes years of work to become or to get to where she is. So it is a pride. And one of the things we want to say about that right now is that she had the opportunity to become that. If she did not get the opportunity to expose her, to step it up, if she was back home in Nigeria, I don't think she will get there. I'm not saying.
Well, she might get there,
She might
but
get
it
there.
might just take forever.
It might just take that forever. Not only that she got there, we found there was a lot of support from Canadians themselves to lift her up, to make her to reach, to become even more, to build her, to see the star that you can see in a child. So for my second daughter, she is another one. One is a doctor.
Wow.
The other one is a lawyer.
Wow.
I will tell you the difference between the doctor and the lawyer. The lawyer one was born on Canada Day, which means she knows every right she does have.
Yes.
Which means she can stand up and claim those rights and become who she is. Let other people know for coming to Canada could be the best thing that happens to you.
Yes.
For you coming to Canada, you have to have that in mind that your children can achieve.
Yes.
I want everybody to understand the fact that we leave behind everything that we did have, all the fears.
The
that
sacrifice.
It is all about our sacrifices. To look beyond the line and always remember, out of all the fears and our struggle, there's always light
At the end of the tunnel.
at the end of the tunnel. You are going to be having that to even build in your children.
Yes.
Build the fear. Tell them, do not worry about any racism.
Build the confidence.
Build the confidence. You are in a place that you can achieve it. And I believe it all comes from the parents themselves.
Yes.
It is what you are feeding your children. If you are thinking, oh, every time you got home after you got home, you say, oh, those people are just racist. You are not planting the right thing in their heads.
To their minds. Yes.
Down their minds. Always remember, like I said, it's not like we got to where we're going today. Dupe is that's my Canadian baby. She's one of the most amazing, like they can stand up and speak and know what they actually need and they want. So why do we complain? And that is why I said, I tell you, we have been blessed so far. It's been a long journey, but with God, we're thankful today.
We give God all the glory and we pray that the Lord will continue to keep the lovely daughters
Thank you.
safe and sound in Jesus' name. And you will
Amen.
both reap the fruit of your
Amen.
labor in Jesus' name. So going forward, Daddy, let me come back to you and ask, have you at any time experienced racism or systemic racism? Kindly let us into that. You know, I mentioned two things now, racism or systemic racism.
In Canada, I never experienced that. Even as a student back home back in those days in England, you experience some sort of systemic racism because it's not really pronounced, but limitations. You know, people, you can't achieve this, you can't do this, you can't do that. You want to take a course on one. Even while in college, it's like, oh no, it's like advising you to do something different. But ever since I got to Canada, I I knew that the limitation was not on our children. And even for me, in spite of the fact that we struggle, work, I did all sort of work that I would say that I'm overqualified for, but the focus is still, my purpose of coming to Canada is not about how much money I've come to make here, but the kind of legacy I would like my children to have. A situation where even at old age to see that every support they needed, they got it in such a way that their lives will be better than ours. Racism in Canada, as far as I'm concerned, unless you really want to be affected, otherwise it's not something that is widespread that you can say that is limiting you. That's my view on that.
Okay, so Auntie Kenny, I'm coming to you now.
Right.
Being a person of color, what is your perception of racism in the Canadian context? Because like Daddy said, it's not that it doesn't exist, it's there,
Yes.
but it's just very at a minimal rate. Then if you want to see, that is when you start seeing what racism is. Now, because it's there, though very, very meager, what is your perception of racism in the Canadian context?
In the Canadian context of racism, there is a picture put out there for all of us to see. There is none, but it is real. We see it every day. We see it at work. We see when you are passing by, we notice it. But they are more quiet.
It's like a silence.
Like a silent thing. Because I think they put some zero tolerance in the way you don't want to be counted as a racist. Even when you see the next person, I went to college, I will give you an example. When I was attending Red River College, I was the only black lady, and I was the oldest in the class. And I found I couldn't get into a group because one, I was black, I was older, until I had to race to the college. Like I would not. I insisted I would be calling the press because I was feeling all the racism around me. If I did not do that, I might not, if I had allowed that to happen, I would not have completed college because all around me, it was there. I could feel it. But at the same token, we have been able to find that they're trying their best not to show being racist. So we should be able to take that. It's right there. It's existing.
My perception of racism in Canada is as follows. It's there, but I choose not to focus on it. Because when you are raising children in this country, you better be careful about what you are allowing them to see. Even though they are there, when they talked about it, yes, enter into that conversation with an open mind and let them know that they are equal. They can, the law allows them to remain equal so that they don't pile up negative experience that would affect their own education, their own self-esteem.
And it goes on.
Yeah, so it's so important that you don't focus on it. The moment anything you focus on, your mind will be there. You also transfer it to other people. And that's why I choose not to focus on the risk.
Thank you very much, Uncle D and Auntie Kenny, for having us in your home. And we hope next time that we come, you will still open the door for us. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So we are still on your program, The Platform. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Wow, that was an insightful and mind-blowing session with the Daodus. And I hope you were able to learn one or two things from the experiences they shared with us. Finally, we would like to encourage everyone to know that they are worthy of dignity and respect, and to think of the people you encounter as an individual, irrespective of the group they belong to. Once we all recognize individuals as human beings with their thoughts, opinions, rights, feelings, and experiences, we will all grow and learn to shed negative connotations about racism, because in reality, we are all created equal. And this is where we draw the curtains on today's episode of your program, The Platform. Till we come your way again, always remember, together and with love, we can make the world a better place. I am Bumi Odunton.